Hello everybody, it's Michelle, and Arteza has sent me some more products to try out for you guys today, and I'm so excited to show these to you guys. Of course, you know me, I have snuck into these and tried them already before I ever turned my camera on, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, I love these watercolors. I've got this set of 36 premium watercolors. And I'm going to go ahead and take that out of the pack. Like I said, I have had it out already. It comes in this nice tin. I really like that. And you pop that open. You've got some areas up here in the lid to use as a palette and mix colors if you need to. You've got the card inside with a guide that shows in order. You flip this open. Sort of a protector layer over the watercolors themselves, and that becomes another tray for more color mixing if you need to. It comes with a water brush pen, and you've got 36 of these half pan colors, but you've got areas down here that you can clip in some extra pans if you want to do that. So you could have room for 48 overall in this case if you wanted to put them in there. And in that case you could fit a brush or something down the center. The little water brush pen is a little too big to fit in there. It fits down here perfectly, and you can have smaller brushes in there. And I can't wait to show you guys these watercolors. And I've got some of the miniature detail paint brushes to use with this. And I love these. I love the fine detail, tiny sizes, and you guys can see that dirty one there is one that I have already used trying these out. All the others I have not tried, but I think as a card maker, often coloring in stamped images with very small areas to color, tiny little details within those stamped images, these are going to be perfect for that. And I have stamped some images out that we're going to try them on as well. And I also received 2 pads of the 32 sheets of expert watercolor paper. And I can't wait to try this also. I had some of Arteza's watercolor paper before, but this is the expert watercolor paper, and it is also double-sided. It's smooth on one side and textured on the other, and both sides are watercolor paintable surfaces. So we're going to try that out a little bit. And first of all, I'm just going to show you guys some of the watercolor and how that paints on. I've got a jar of water here to dip my brushes in, and a couple of napkins if I need to blot that off. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use this brush. We'll try a few different ones along the way. First off, I want to show you guys how strongly pigmented these watercolor paints are. We'll go ahead and start over here with the green. And you can see I just barely went into that a little bit with a very wet brush. But look how strongly pigmented. And then I can take more water if I want to and really spread that out and get a light variation of that. I'm going to put my color guide here so we can see what we're using, and that was spring green. I'm going to try an orange. And I'm going to try the chrome orange here. Very pigmented, very strong. Wet my brush a little more and pull that out, and you can get very light. And I'll just tell you guys, having these watercolors has really made me want to use just traditional watercolors. This was actually the first I had used of watercolor paints other than like the Crayola or something when my kids were in school. But as far as artist paints, this was the first I'd ever had. I have used the watercolor markers and watercolor pencils, but just traditional watercolor paints I had not, and I love them, and it makes me want to use these more and more. So let's try now for a yellow. We'll go in for lemon yellow here. And I think I had a little bit of that orange still in my brush. Let me clean that out and go back into the yellow. Okay. There we go. That's a much cleaner yellow. And I love that strong pigmentation. I'm going to get a little more water and pull it out to a lighter yellow. I love that gradient that you can get. I love it. And just to show you guys just how much these colors are so intense. I know that with any sort of watercolor, the toughest colors are red and black. Red tends to wash out and get pink looking, and the black tends to wash out and get gray looking. So we're going to go in for red, and I'm going for Amaranth Red. This is our darkest red here. It does have a little bit of a magenta tone, but look how dark and pigmented that is. I love that. And we can add water and wash that out and get lighter. Back here where we had it on heavy, it kind of maintains that intensity, and I really like that. And we can wash it out to get lighter and lighter. And like I said, that one was kind of magenta already. So we're going to go for a little more of a true red down here with Scarlet Red and see how that one does for us. Look how dark and red that is. That is so red and not pink at all. I'm going to wash it out with my water a little bit, thin it out. And I think that really maintains that red look. And now for the true test, we're going to go for the black. Down here in the bottom right. Get that on my brush. And look how intense and black that is. I just love how dark these colors are. As a matter of fact, when I was playing around and first trying them out, I was having a hard time at first because I didn't expect them to be so pigmented. They turn into just absolutely regular paint when you add water. And you can get that watery look too if you add more water, which just means these colors are going to last so long. It takes so little to really get a strong, intense color. Okay, I'm going to try out a couple more of my brushes here. I'm going to go for some super fine ones, and these are in 3 different shapes. You get 5 of each of the 3 shapes: liner, spot, and round in these. 5 of each one. This next one that I'm trying out here is 4O in the spot. So let's try that and see if we can get a tiny little thin line. I love this detail aspect for card making. I think it's going to be really great for those tiny little stamped images. And like I said, I do have some stamped images that I'm going to try out for you guys. So there is our blue. Let's see, that was Periwinkle Blue. And that washes out to be a very pretty blue. And let's see how thin of a line we can get with these detail brushes. And this is the spot shape, so let's test that out and see if we can just make dots. And look what tiny dots you can get with those fine detail brushes. That's going to be so great for stamped images. And actually, I want to go ahead, I'm going to cut a strip off the bottom of this so I don't have to flip over that wet paint and have it transfer onto the other papers in my pad here. But I want to cut up a little piece loose here so we can flip that over and try out our smooth side of the double-sided watercolor paper. So I'm going to come back with the first brush I was using, and we're going to try a couple of those same colors and just see how it acts, if it acts any differently on the smooth side. Actually, I believe it does. It's not as quickly absorbed into the paper, so you can do more movement of the color on top before you allow that to dry. Let's try with the black. And you can see those lines there where we're getting it kind of still laying on top. It's not absorbed as quickly, and I think I really like that. I think that's going to give you more time to work and move your color how you want it on your paper. And the paper is holding up nicely also. Some watercolor papers that I've worked with before start to deteriorate and fall apart from the water that you add onto them, but this is holding up very well. So far, excellent marks for the watercolor paper and the paint as well. So here are my stamped images, and we're going to try out these fine detail brushes and see just how fine of a detail we can get. I've got a couple of images stamped out here, and these are a couple of images from Technique Tuesday stamps. You guys have seen me use these before. This is the Take Flight, is the butterfly from Technique Tuesday, and the cherry blossoms are from the set called Cherry Blossoms. And I have stamped those in Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And I went ahead and clear embossed over top of that. And I want to say first that I don't think that's necessary as far as the black ink, the Simon Says Stamp ink. I have used it with watercolor before, and it does not smudge the ink. However, I just wanted that embossing on there for a little bit of resist, to resist our watercolor here, because I was painting some images before when I was first playing around with these, and the pigmentation was so intense that it would lay over top of my black and cover up the lines of my image. So if you want to use this for stamped images, if you're not going to be embossing, you may want to do your stamping in the Misty, where you can leave that stamp in position and then come back and do your black again over top to make sure that your lines are crisp and clear again over top of your painted areas. But I think it's going to be really fun to do this with the embossed resist. So I'm going to use my little palette areas here a little bit, because I want to take first the pink. Let's go into magenta, and we'll smudge that over here a little bit, and I want to add a lot of water because I really want to get that to be a light, soft pink for my cherry blossoms. I'm going to dot that off on my napkin, come back in with a wet brush, and see if I can get a light wash of color. And that's one of the things I love about watercolor, is you can manipulate the intensity like that and get that soft look. Or you can color it on right like this and get that dark, very intense look. It's kind of like having the entire spectrum of the rainbow all in one small palette. And you can also, over here in your palette, mix some colors. So I'm going to pull back a little bit and dry off my brush and try to take up some of that color so that we get an even lighter wash of color. Okay, so now what I want to do is come over here and work on my butterfly a little bit while that dries. I want to make sure that it's completely dry before I come back and do some little detail painting inside that I don't want to bleed. So I'm going to let it dry first before I paint back over top of that. And I think I'm going to do a light blue butterfly. So in order to get light, I'm going to have to add lots of water. And these brushes, I think, are amazing in these tiny little areas. I'm going to darken that up a little bit and even add in a little bit of the Oxford blue to darken it up. And come in here, and if you come in with a darker color while it's still wet, you will get some of that bleeding, and it blends very well. And then on the bottom, I want to do some blue in at the inner part of those lower wings. And I want to blend that into a purple. So I'm going to come over here and get violet. And again, I want to add a lot of water to thin that down. And you can see how you get a blend of those two colors. When you come in with them both wet, they're going to mix right together and blend. You get sort of a combination color in between, and I really like that. So now I'm going to use more of my violet and make some little areas here at the base. And you can make very defined lines if you come in on top of dry paint. Or you can get that blend if you come in on wet paint. And now I'm going to take a little bit of the jade green. And I think I'm going to keep that fairly intense. And I want to come into these little fine areas and see what I can do there. And you can see how dark and intense that is. And then let's try to wash a few of them out as a lighter tone. Pull that green into some of the colored areas a little. Get sort of a really washy watercolor look. Now my cherry blossom is dry, and I want to come back into maybe a little bit of mix of this amaranth and scarlet red, sort of an in-between tone. Maybe pull in some of that pink and just really mix and customize your colors however you want. Then I'm going to come in from the center of the flower and make some pretty defined lines. And this part doesn't even look like it's done with watercolor because it's so defined. But if you keep your color pretty intense and don't add a lot of water, you can achieve that. And also it'll stay very defined like that if you wait until the other area that you're putting it on top of has dried. Okay, so we've got our intense color there, and you can do whatever you want with that. If it's looking maybe a little too intense for you, you can come back and sort of wash out those edges, pull it back in toward the center. Wash your brush whenever you think you've got too much color. You can pull that in and blot it off on your napkin off to the side. And just pick that color right back up and pull it off of your paper if you don't want that much color. You can pick some of the color up once it's dried if you re-wet it. And you can take it almost completely back up entirely if you get it while it's still wet. So that is one of our cherry blossoms. Now I want to do a little bit of color variation on my branch. And I want a little bit of a lighter brown on top. We're going to go for a little bit of a mix between the burnt sienna and the burnt umber. Mix those together a little bit and water them down quite a bit because I want a fairly light color to look like that highlight on the top of the branch. And we'll just come in and color that. Then I'm going to go for the mahogany and mix that in a little bit and darken it up. Maybe even darker. Some of the sepia brown. And you can see it's still a little bit wet up on that lighter part, and it's just bleeding and fading right into that. And if it got too dry on you and didn't bleed enough, I'm going to come in here and just touch that lighter end of the color I had going on there. And just come back in wet again on that. And I'm going to take just a touch of this deep red, sort of a brown red kind of color, and mix a little bit of that pink in. Add some water and maybe get a little more intensity toward the inside. Rinse my brush and wash that out a little. So as you guys can see, these are really wonderful watercolors. I really cannot believe the intensity that you can get in that red and black and all of the other colors. Actually, they're all very pigmented and super intense, but you can really tell with that red and black. Those are the hardest colors to get to be true in watercolor paint, and I love these watercolors, you guys. So I'm cleaning up my palette a little bit, but truth be told, you don't really need to do that, because that dried paint that's in these little well areas, you can come back later on after it's completely dried and you can take a wet brush and add water to that and use from that paint, especially if you have mixed some custom colors and that has been allowed to dry in there. You can still reconstitute that with a wet brush and keep using it. I just wanted to clean mine up there a little bit. And I am so impressed with the intensity of the colors in these watercolor paints. So that is the Arteza Premium Watercolors in the set of 36. And this is such a heavy set. You can really tell by the weight of this that there's a lot of density of paint in there, that you could use this for a very, very long time. It takes so little of it to get dark, intense colors. It's going to last you for a very long time. I'm also very pleased with the watercolor paper. I think the smooth side and the textured sides really do perform differently. And I like them both. Just depends on what project you're doing, how you want it to look. If you want that textured look or if you want a smoother look, you're going to be able to use from both sides of this two-sided Expert watercolor pad. And I loved the fine detail that you can get with these brushes. And that's the miniature brushes in the set of 15. I will leave you guys the links to everything in the description below for all of the products that I used here today. And don't forget, I can now include links for US and UK. So you guys will have an opportunity to get these wonderful products. I wasn't sure that I really wanted to work with the traditional watercolors in the pans like this, but this set has completely changed my mind. I was under the impression that all watercolor pans in the traditional pan are going to be washed out and watery looking, but that is not the case. This set has completely changed my outlook on traditional watercolors. So I hope you guys will give them a try. Leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. I hope you guys are as impressed with them as I am. I just can't get over this color intensity. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a like over on my Facebook page. And be sure to join our Facebook group, Crafty Minds. Also follow me on Pinterest and Instagram. And don't forget to visit my blog. I'll have the links to everything in the description below, so be sure and check them out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.